Losing a client website can be one of the absolute worst things that can possibly happen to you. And that's whether you're a designer or developer that's actually building a site and you've lost a ton of work, maybe halfway through. That's going to be work you've got to redo, along with potentially missing important client deadlines, or if you're managing a client site. You need to be able to make sure that that website is constantly safe. You can't afford for something to happen. You know, we all know that hackers exist, so we can't afford for you to get hacked and then for you to potentially lose data, lose sales, start costing your client money, because that's an awfully good way for you to not have that client anymore. So, what do you do to fix this potential issue? Well, you just have a backup. You just make sure that you have a backup available to you so that you can just revert back to it. You can decide how frequently that backup needs to be done based on what information is coming through the website. And we'll talk a bit about that at the end of the video. However, let's just get you backed up. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to create a backup for whatever website you are working on so that it is there, it is ready, and you have no problems. And then I'm going to show you how to make that backup happen automatically so that you don't have to do anything with it, which in terms of saving you time, money, and reducing stress is absolutely huge. So let's go and take a look. So let's dig you out of the hole of not having any backups, or I suppose stop you falling into the hole by creating some backups. And the first thing we're going to do is head to your WordPress admin dashboard, go to plugins, and to add plugin just here. From there, we're going to go up to the top right hand side to the search plugins option, and I am going to look for Duplicator. Duplicator is going to show up on this top right hand side just here, and you are going to have a button that looks an awful lot like this one that says install now. Once you've clicked on install now, you're going to get the option to activate, and you can see mine already has activate as the option there. Now, why oh why would I not have the install now button? Well, it's because of course I already have Duplicator installed, but I don't just have Duplicator, I have Duplicator Pro. So Duplicator Pro is essentially a much more powerful version of Duplicator. You can by all means use this version, this free version of Duplicator, in order to make backups, but for what we want to do later on, where we want to be able to schedule those backups without any need for you to do anything, you're going to want Duplicator Pro. So I'm going to leave links down the top pin comment and description where you can check that out. But for this first step where you're just going to do a backup, Duplicator will do just fine. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my sidebar where I already have Duplicator Pro installed. I'm going to click on that, and you can see a bunch of backups that I've already done for this particular website. Your page is going to look very similar to this, and then you can just go ahead and add a new backup. So I'm just going to click on add new. You're then going to get some options as to obviously your backup name format, which you can change. You've got the template. You can create templates as to what actually backs up. A default template is a full site backup, which is what we're going to do today. And then we have some options for where that backup is stored. Again, if you only have Duplicator and not Duplicator Pro, this is limited. And then you have your backup and installer files. Realistically, all you actually need to be able to do is click on this orange button here and go next. This is going to allow Duplicator to scan your site to ensure that your backup is going to be able to run. Scan took 0.025 seconds according to Duplicator, and you can see everything here is good. So we are all good to create this backup. And for that, all we have to do is click on this little orange button again and create backup. This is going to create the backup just here, and you can see it's at 5%. It will take a couple of minutes in total for the backup to complete, just as depending on the size of your website. But that is every step you need in order to actually create a backup. So we're going to skip now to when that backup is complete. Like I say, it will take maybe a minute, maybe two, and we will look at what you can do with that backup to get a restore, and also how to schedule those backups we were talking about earlier. There we go. So I now have my backup just here, and I have a whole bunch of options. I can download this backup, which I would strongly recommend doing, so that you have a copy of it that you can store, for example, on your desktop, maybe stored in your Google Drive or somewhere like that. I can also restore my website from this exact point. So if I was to go back to any of these backups just here, I could go ahead and select one of them and restore to that particular date and time, which can be very useful if maybe a mistake's been made and you just want to go back to a previous save point. So keep that in mind. Again, this is all an awful lot easier in my opinion with Duplicator Pro, but you do have the download and restore options with Duplicator as well. There's also options to set this particular backup as a disaster recovery point should everything go unbelievably wrong, and we'll talk about that at the end of the video. However, for now, let's go across back into the sidebar and click on Schedule Backups. You can see here on my schedule backups, I already have a weekly backup set up for this particular website. And what I can go ahead and do now is I can add a new schedule backup to show you how that's done. I'm going to create a new backup that's going to be daily. So let's call this daily backup. Inventive title, I know. And again, for the templates, we can create new templates that would back up only certain things, but we're going to stick with default, which backs up absolutely everything. This one, of course, we're going to run daily, as it is indeed a daily backup, and select a start time. So this one I'm going to select for 9 o'clock. Now it is important to note here that in order to get scheduled backups to run, you need traffic through the site. You can't have a scheduled backup run where there's no traffic. The traffic will trigger the backup to start. So make sure you set it for a time where traffic's likely to be running through the site. Just remember that as a side note. But that is essentially our entire schedule set up. It really is that simple. I can go ahead and save it, and then I can go back to the schedules, and you can see I now have a daily backup. Now this of course has never ran because I've only just created it, but this will now run every single day where there is traffic. And what this means is that I never have to worry about this backup happening ever again. It's just going to happen automatically. So while that first step we did, creating a backup, is incredibly quick, this means that I don't have to do anything at all, and I can take all of that worry off my plate. The only thing you might worry about is if you lose the entire site, everything goes down, you have no access to your WordPress back end. And that is where the disaster recovery point that we were speaking about just a minute ago comes into play. So how do we set up a disaster recovery and how do we use it? Well, what we want to do is click on this video right here and I'll explain it all.